Welcome to your homework video for the 3-day pet collage class. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm going to talk you through what you need to do before you come to class. So, first of all, I'm going to discuss the substrates that are listed in the supply list. I work on a variety of different substrates. The first one is 1/8 inch sanded plywood. So this is just a cabinet grade plywood from Home Depot that's 1/8 of an inch wide, and it's cut down to size and primed. This is primed with clear gesso. You can also prep it with white, black, gray, or colored gesso. So this is a wood panel. Probably my most favorite substrate to work on is the 2-inch or 1.5 inch profile cradled wood panel, and I get these from Dick Blick. That way the art wraps around the edges and it can stand on its own in the smaller sizes, and you don't need to frame it. So these I order online. The most economical surface is the canvas panel, and that is what probably most people will bring to class. It is a pre-primed canvas that is stretched over mat board. It's not stretched over stretcher bars. That way it does not give or flex in the middle when you're trying to apply collage paper. So that's one consistent quality of all of these bases, is that they are not going to flex. They are rigid. So today I'm going to show you how to really easily transfer a sized up sketch photo that I put together in Photoshop and made to the size of 12 by 12, how to transfer that to your board. You want to line your printout up perfectly with your board. Now, I created this image in Photoshop. I took one goat with his face poking through the fence, that photo, and there were several other goats in the background. It was more of a vertical format. So I took all the goats out of the background in my computer and just made this one, brought him over from that side to this side, and had to rebuild the bottom half of his body. But I just roughly roughed that in Photoshop, and then I've cropped it into a 12 by 12. So I've made my composition on the computer. I've got it lined up. I've got the transfer paper underneath. Then I'm going to take a ballpoint pen and I'm going to trace around. I've already sketched this once, so I'm using this to trace around and make basically outlines and marks and give myself all the information that I need to then make a good painting. So I want to make sure that I get the eyes in the right place. I'm going to make some marks to indicate the direction of the fur. I'm going to trace out my basic shapes, but I'm also going to indicate some shading with some cross hatching to show that the ear is dark under there, that the fence is dark in here, that this eye is dark. So I can make some shading notes to myself. I can make some directional notes to myself, like my face is rolling around and down. I'll paint with my brush going that way. So I'm drawing and I'm giving myself information for the way that my paintbrush will go and where the darks and the lights are. And I'm going to make sure that I get a really good drawing of the whole composition with the transfer paper. Now, as I do this, and when I get to the point that I think that I'm done, I can lift up a corner, keeping my reference photo secure so that it doesn't slide out of place. I can lift up a corner and check to make sure that I haven't missed any spots or any parts of the drawing. So you can check by lifting your corners, but keeping your hand so that your reference photo doesn't slide out of place. Now, when you are finished, you may have some spots that you need to fix up that you missed. I missed this right here. And I may want to make a little more detail. And I can add that to the drawing at this point with my pencil. And then I've got a pretty good sketch that will give me everything in proportion for my underpainting. So any details that you missed or stuff that you want to firm up or make a little bit more easier to see for your painting, the more information you have for the underpainting, the better. So I'm just fixing up some of the details on the fence and making sure my drawing is good. Now I've established the shapes and the drawing, and I've also established some notes for myself for shading, because I'm making some scribbling in the darkest areas so that I know when I do my painting, or I'm reminded when I do my painting of where the darks are. The shading is very important. The darks and the lights, establishing the darks and the lights. Okay, now that we've got our sketch transferred, we're going to do a quick underpainting. It is something that I don't want to spend a ton of time on, but I want to make sure that I have established my colors, my shapes, and my values. I've got my Masters wet box palette here with paint in it that's been in there for a few weeks. A great way to keep from wasting paint. Okay, so I'm going to lay in the background green. Just going to keep it light and plain, sort of like it is in the reference photo. I've gotten a little darker. Need to keep it a little lighter. I'm going to add some white. Now you can always change this with the collage paper, and I do intend to collage all of this background. Sometimes I'll leave a painted background, but I have a lot of wonderful green collage paper, and I can make a nice grassy feeling with the texture of the collage paper. So I'm just blocking in. Working quickly to lay in the background, keeping it light. And referring back to my reference photo in case any areas of the sketch are confusing, like the lower left-hand corner with the body of the goat is a little confusing in the sketch, so I'm going to keep that reference photo available. Also, I want to keep the reference photo available so that I'm sure that I get my darks and lights, my shadows established in there correctly. Once I make the underpainting, I probably will not refer back to the reference photo very much in the collage process. So I'm going to give myself all the information I need in this painting so that I probably don't need to refer back to that photo when I'm collaging. Now I'm going to keep it on hand in case I need to, or feel like I need to, look at the shading again, even in the collage process, but I'm probably not going to keep it out. So I want to make sure I have as much information that I need to make a good painting, to make a good collage, established in this underpainting. Probably could have used a smaller brush for that, but we're going to put the fence on top of this green, so Okay, now there's green under his ear. And then the whole lower left side is actually the goat's lower body. So that's all going to be brown. Okay. All right, so that should take care of my simple background. Now I'm going to lay in this simple goat shape in the background. He's mostly white. I am going to paint a little white in there, even though the board is white. I'll give him a little shading. I'm definitely not getting caught up in the details in him. I want to keep him simple. So that he can be blurred in the background. So I'm going to keep him simple in my underpainting, simple in the collage, just establishing the colors and the shapes. Okay, that's about all I need. Now I'm going to get into the goat. I'm going to paint the darker areas first. You don't have to paint from dark to light. I don't really have a rule on that, but I feel like I'm going to start with these dark shapes first. Now, the reason why I'm going to have you do this painting before you come to class is that we have so much information to share in the collage process, in making your own hand-painted collage papers, and in tearing them up and gluing them down, that it's a lot to learn in 3 days. So I'm going to have you come with your homework already prepared so that you can hit the ground running. That way you have the most time possible to focus on the collage. I will review everyone's underpainting when they get to class, and I'll give you suggestions for making it a little better if need be. So that'll be the first thing you'll do, is you'll show me your homework assignment, and I'll let you know if you need to redo it. We never have to redo it. Sometimes we just have to add more shading. I think that's people's biggest challenge, is the shading. Now, you have to really look at what's dark and what's light. And so right now, I'm laying in the dark. I'm focusing on the dark that was in the middle of his chin, the dark that's in his nostrils, the corner of his mouth, his eyes. I'm gonna look at other lines that I made to remind myself of shading. I'm gonna make his nose a little bit more pink than it really is, although it's really kind of peach. Sometimes that's the artistic license, so he could be a little pinker. I'm wiping excess color off my brush with a paper towel versus putting it in the water every time, and then that allows a little bit of color to stay in the brush, and it tints as I go along. He's got this brown sort of shading under his nose. It's actually more of a black, but I really don't like to go with too dark of a black. There we go. He's got a triangle of dark, and then it sort of blends out from there. And then underneath his chin, we're gonna go a little darker. I'm using blue right here. Sort of establish those darks. So that about finishes the information that you need to create a good collage on top. We need to let this dry and make sure that we've got all the shading, the darks and the lights, and the shapes and a good basic drawing. And I think that we've got all of that right here with this, and I think that it's taken probably less than a half an hour to get this all set. I should have put on a timer, but I didn't. But there, I'm not gonna fuss with that wire anymore, but that's probably the most detail-oriented thing on the whole piece is the barbed wire, or the wire fence. And that is gonna go on top of everything on the collage, because you're gonna do what is very foremost in the composition will be done last. So this barbed wire, and I'm gonna explain that in class, but this barbed wire is going to be the last thing that I do in the collage, because it's gonna sit on top of all of everything else. So there we go. I think this is a really good place to start, and this will be my demo piece for the 3-day pet portrait class, and I look forward to meeting you. Thank you so much.